So a happy thought. Okay. So we're gonna do a happy thought before Shabbos. Now we talked about a question before about that there was this idea that the magic of Egypt was keeping us stuck in Mitzrayim. And I was learning a sefer by the Arizal.
Magnetic field,
A magic field. And I was learning a sefer by the Arizal. And I am blanking on the exact name. It's maybe like Etz Daat Tov. I would try to clarify again which sefer was. And he talks about it. And he says something incredible about it. Can I erase this? Okay, I'm going to show you something really incredible. Okay, so what do we say at a bris? How are we saved from Egypt? What was the two special mitzvahs we did that really got us out of Egypt? Anybody know? What did we say to them?
killing of the firstborn.
That was their punishment. Well, what was two special mitzvahs we did when we were in Egypt that really helped us, gave us the merit to break out? What was the two
To
special?
be able to put the animal as tied to the bed.
And so what did we do? Then what did we do with that animal?
That was Korban Pesach.
Right. So the Korban Pesach. Okay. So the dam of the Korban. Okay. So watch this. This is really interesting. So Tehillim. Okay, so this is on Tehillim 124. It's from the Arizal. I forgot the exact name of the sefer. I want to say something like Etz Daat Tov. Okay, but he asks the question. He says, so what the Arizal starts talking about, he says the magic, the kishuf. Right, he says the kishuf. Can't remember, I think it's like that. Kishuf, like magic, right? Sorcery of Egypt was too strong, right? Egypt, too strong for us to leave, right? For us to leave. Now he talks, in Tehillim 124, David HaMelech, he talks about something interesting. He compares the Jewish people, in Tehillim, if we look it up, he compares us to a tzipor. He compares us to a bird, right? We're compared to this bird. But the bird is caught in the pach, the trap, the snare, or the trap of the hunters, right? The pach, the trap of the hunters. It's in the hunter's trap, okay? And you can see this a lot in like Kabbalah. It's really cool. Okay, so let's take a look at the word pach, trap. So the Arizal is saying this is the trap. This was their magical trap. And we talked about this briefly, but we may still be in a magical trap. But we may be in a magical trap of our minds. The Enlightenment has been confusing the Jewish people, trying to get them to think that Hashem doesn't exist, Chas v'shalom, or think that the Torah is not important, Chas v'shalom, or doing the mitzvahs is not important, or that we don't have power through the Torah and our connection to Hashem to break free of them. They've kind of like done this mind games on us, this brainwashing, right? So the Arizal, he says, what's the gematria? What's the value of Pach? And he says the trap, this trap of Keshefa, this trap of magic. So Hey, gematria of 80. Ches, gematria of 8. So we are trapped by 88. It's interesting too. It's so fascinating that the neo-Nazis, they like 88 because in English it's like I think the 8th letter is a hey, not a hey, an H. I'm sorry, an H. Right, and they're a Heil Nittler. They're Heil Nittler. You know, they love to worship their Adolf Nittler. So they use 88. But we're going to see that 88 is a really holy number in some ways, right? But so we're in this trap of Amalek, right? Trap of the Keshefa, the magic, you know, all the stuff. So how do we break it? What did Hashem give us to break it? What was the secret of how he broke out of the trap? We talked about like Moshe wasn't maybe in that trap. Moshe was allowed to leave. How do we break out? So two things. We mentioned one. We say in a bris, we say D'mayich Chayi. D'mayich Chayi. We say it twice. By my blood I live, by my blood I live. So those two mitzvahs that we did when we were in Egypt. And that broke us out. And that gave us power to break out. And the two bloods were this. So the first blood, the first dam, was the blood of the Korban Pesach. And isn't this interesting too? Isn't something very interesting there about Pesach, where the Samech comes in and it breaks up the Pach? Isn't something very interesting about the freedom of Pesach, that we're dealing with the Pach, right? He didn't say that. I don't know. It's something interesting. I'm sure he says it in some other place. So we have the Korban Pesach, and then we put the blood on our doors, right? Blood on our doors. On our doors. And a further power of this is, when did this happen? This happened on Shabbos Agadol, right? This happened on Shabbos Agadol with the blood on the door. So that's the first dam. What's the gematria of dam? What's the gematria? Let's see the gematria of dam. So mem is 40, and dalet is 4. So 44. That's the first blood. And what's the second blood? What's the second mitzvah we did? The dam of the bris milah. And then everyone got a circumcision. The bris milah that we did in Egypt. And then we got another 44. And when we add up our two mitzvahs, when we take our 44 and we add it to a 44, all of a sudden now we get our 88. And what broke it? What broke the magic? What broke their sorcery that was holding us in? So the power of the mitzvahs. The power of the mitzvahs of the dam of the Korban Pesach, the blood that we put on our doors, that Hashem was at Pesach, Hashem passed over, and now the Samech, 60, the secret is 60, that breaks up the Pach, starts to break up the trap. Pesach breaks up the trap. And then the dam and the bris milah that now attaches again to the covenant with Hashem. And now we got 44, we got 88, and now we broke the power of the trap. We broke the power of the Pach. And now we can break their spell, and we can leave Egypt. What do you think? Pretty good, the Arizona? Rabbi Yitzchak Luria.
How do you get hot hits though?